I think it's thinking. Hey everybody, Dr. Hess here from pdmom.com. I wanted to sign on today to chat with you a little bit about the new documentary that just came out that I'm featured in called Childhood 2.0, The Living Experiment, and why you absolutely must watch it. I'll start off by saying it's free. That's super important. It's free. It's easy to watch. So you don't have to worry about signing up for anything. You don't have to pay for anything, but it's a must watch. So here's why it's so important for me to share it and to make sure that you're all watching it. This documentary is eye-opening, shocking, heartbreaking. There is some hopeful stuff in there as well that can help you guys, but essentially we cover everything related to children's safety online and on social media. So for this documentary, I was able to work with some amazing experts that I'll run through just so you can see what type of experts contributed to this particular piece. Some awesome parents, and most importantly, some amazing, amazing kids. There are kids in this documentary ranging from grade school all the way through high school young adults. And these kids sat down with us and were so candid and so open and so honest that it was eye-opening even for those of us who do this for a living and feel like we know a lot about what they're experiencing. But like I say all the time, we have to listen to the kids because they're the ones that are going to give us the most information. And in this documentary, they share just eye-opening and the details and the heartbreak behind it all, and the sadness of how different it is for them than it was for us. And I think until you watch something like this particular documentary, you're not really going to get a good feel about how they are experiencing life. And that was the purpose of the documentary, so that we could see what they're experiencing, from the teens themselves, so that we can hear from myself, a bunch of the other experts, about what we know is out there, the risks, the dangers, and also to teach parents on what they need to know so that they can educate themselves and educate their kids and have really good conversations about what to expect, how to deal with it, to keep them safe. Because at this point, it's not a matter of if they're going to encounter the dangers online and on social media, it's a matter of when. So this documentary has it all. So I'm going to run down who is actually in it. Obviously, I'm in it. There is Chris McKenna, who is an amazing human being. He is the CEO of Protect Young Eyes, protectyoungeyes.com, which does amazing education on the safety of children online and does a lot of specific work on the ease of access of pornography online and on social media and how that affects children. Jesse and Sarah Siegand, who established Parents Who Fight. They also do a lot of education surrounding child safety online and do a lot of consulting with parents and schools of how they can set up their devices safely and all of that. There's two other physicians that are on there. There's Dr. Sujit Sharma, who is another pediatric ER physician, and there's Dr. Joel Stoddard, who's a pediatric psychiatrist who gives a ton of information about the mental health behind social media, what it's doing to our kids, especially when we talk about suicide and depression and anxiety, all of which are definitely on the rise in kids. So he does an amazing job explaining all of that to make it easy to understand. There's Dr. Patty Agassin, who is a licensed professional counselor from childbullyhelp.com. She does a ton of education on cyberbullying. That's a great place to go and find some information on cyberbullying. There's also Brian Basin and Titania Jordan, who are from Bark Technologies. I know you guys have all heard me talk about the parental monitoring app Bark. It's an amazing, amazing, not only product, but their company and what they do with respect to educating parents and kids around what they're seeing as a result of their product. They're doing amazing stuff. Kelly Ann O'Neill, who is a child life specialist who works with teenagers, and she sat with a bunch of teenagers who were super open about a lot of this stuff, just like I sat with some teenagers and we discussed stuff too. And she brought out some amazing information that kids have been sharing about what they're experiencing online, and how not only about what they're experiencing online, but how what they're experiencing bleeds over into everyday life and how it is affecting them long term. There's also Richard Wistocki, who is a cybercrimes detective. He gives some terrifying information about some of what he's seeing from the law enforcement side, specifically relating to sextortion, sex trafficking, the suicide that's happening online, especially where it pertains to cyberbullying, where people are, some kids are trying to get other kids to commit suicide, and they're successful. So he kind of brings a different spin into it too, which is important for everybody to know. And so what are we talking about in this documentary? Oh Lord, we talk about everything. We talk about cyberbullying and its effects on kids, and how it's different than the type of bullying that we experienced when we were kids. We talk about sexting and how that relates to dating for kids right now, and how that relationship and the romance and the getting to know people aren't there, and how it's jumping directly into sexting and requests for nudes, and requests for more than that. We talk about sextortion and sex trafficking. Online predators are a huge part of this particular documentary on all different platforms, so we help you understand what that's about and how that works. We even have some input, input from the kids themselves. They give some examples of what they have experienced by getting DMs from strangers, by getting requests from both strangers and from people they know for nudes and for videos and that kind of thing. We also talk about the dangers of the physical world versus the dangers online, and how the majority of parents actually are more concerned about the physical dangers like kidnappings and having their child go out and get raped, or physical injuries while they're out and about in the neighborhood. And parents are still more worried about that when that's actually decreasing and the risks online are increasing. We talk about why that is, and why it's so difficult for us as parents who did not grow up with technology to really understand those risks, and why it's so easy to just be more concerned about the physical risks. We talk about technology and smartphone addiction. The kids give some really amazing insight into this. They talk about how they have trouble putting it down, how it's the first thing that they reach for when they are feeling bored, how it actually keeps them from doing anything productive. So they help us understand that a lot in this documentary. We talk about early access to pornography, which is a huge, huge issue with unfiltered online access and social media access. It's everywhere. Here's another place where the kids in this particular documentary were hugely helpful in getting us to understand how readily available it is, how frequent it is, how young they're seeing it. They're telling us about how 6th, 7th grade, they're seeing it. We were also discussing how it's a big issue in even some elementary schools. We do a lot of talking about how one of my most hated phrases, not my kid, not my kid's school, how that doesn't really matter, because as much as you try to do to protect your kid by keeping them from having these devices or using the right parental monitoring controls and filters and blocks and all of that, because so many other kids do have access, the likelihood is that they're going to see it. So it's not really a matter of if, it's completely a matter of when. So we talk through all of that so that you can understand it, and we talk about it from our point of view, the expert's point of view, but then we also hear the kids talking about it from their point of view, which really, even as an expert in this, got me thinking about different things as well. It was very, very helpful and very insightful. We talk about how online use and social media use and everything that comes with that, how it contributes to the massive increase that we're seeing in childhood and adolescent depression, anxiety, and suicide. Myself and the other physician who works in pediatric emergency medicine discuss how the number of children that we're seeing in the pediatric ER for these particular issues has increased significantly over the past handful of years, and not only has the numbers significantly increased, but the age has significantly decreased. So we have a big conversation about that. And again, the kids give tons of insight about their own view and knowledge of anxiety and depression and how they think social media contributes to that, which is super helpful for those of us who are trying to assist them and for parents to know how to talk to them about that. We talk about the pressure to conform and how it's become an important thing for them to have social media. And it's really amazing to hear how these kids actually will say that they wish social media didn't exist, but now that it does, if they're not part of it, then they're outcasts. So in that sense, it's heartbreaking while being eye-opening at the same time. That's just a little pieces of what is in this movie. It's a long movie. It is an hour and a half. So I understand that it's not the easiest for parents to sit through an hour and a half movie, especially if you're not watching it with your kids. That's another point that I need to make, is that for older kids, this is absolutely appropriate for them, especially if you have preteens or teens that you've already decided to give access to smartphones and social media and unfiltered internet access, because the likelihood is everything that we discuss in this particular movie, they're already seeing or experiencing. So it can spark some amazing conversations between you and them. For the younger kids, we do discuss some pretty graphic situations with lots of detail behind them. And that is something that you'll have to decide on a case-by-case basis for your particular child, their age, their developmental stage, and what you have already started to discuss with them. So for the younger ones, I absolutely suggest that parents watch it first by themselves and then decide if you want to watch it with your child. The great thing about this particular documentary is that when you go to the website, there are lots of resources there as well, including a discussion, some suggestions for what to discuss and how to discuss them with your kids. So we really wanted it to be not just something that we threw the information out to you and then left you to your own devices. We understand that this is tough stuff to talk about. It's tough stuff to hear, tough stuff to learn, tough stuff to talk to your kids about. But it has to be done. And so we didn't want to just throw it all out there and let you be and say, that's it, bye. So we gave a lot of resources, and we will continue to do that by giving some more resources, or just start conversations on our various pages, like here on my page or in my safety group, Safety Conscious Parenting. We can start conversations there. But please don't not watch this just because it's hard stuff. Don't not watch it just because it's long. Every single parent needs to see this, because every single child is either going through at least some of these particular things already or will be shortly. So let me just quickly take a look at some of the comments, just in case there's questions, because I definitely want to answer some. Yes, thank you for saying that it's a must watch, because I absolutely, I think it is as well. It's, gosh, I wish I could convey to you guys how badly I want you to see this stuff and understand this stuff, because understanding what our kids are experiencing is just the first step, but it's a huge step. It's just the first step to be able to keep them safe. If we keep avoiding it because it's so overwhelming and we don't know where to start, or it's an awkward conversation, or you think that your kid hasn't seen it yet and you've seen this stuff yet and you don't want to be the one to introduce that particular topic, if we keep avoiding it for those reasons, it's going to be too late. They're already going to be experiencing it. And then once you have to start chasing it and backtracking and trying to fix things, it becomes much, much harder. And that's also a conversation that we have in this documentary. The parents who contributed were very open and honest about some of the issues that they've had in their own family with their own children, and how they wish they had done things or how they would do things if they could do it again. And so that's very helpful for parents as well. Where can it be watched? So I have the link in multiple areas on my page. It can be watched at Childhood 2. I'll actually tell you the exact address and I'll link it down here as well. It's childhood2movie.com. So you can see it there. It's also on YouTube. So if you just search Childhood 2.0, it will come up if you do a Google search. But I will definitely link the direct link below so that you can just click right on it and go. Where can it be watched? I answered that one. Let's see if there's any other. There's not. So for any of you that watched this after the live, if you, oh, hold on. While distance learning becoming a more viable option is quite important. So learn how to use tech school, but then they can use it however, yes. And I want you guys to know that after you watch this, I want you to ask the questions. I want you to post in our community group, Safety Conscious Parenting, or send me messages on my PD Mom page, because there's going to be a lot of questions that come up when you watch this documentary, and I want to answer all of them because all of this is so important and it is my passion. And I feel like the more parents know, the safer their kids are going to be. And if you're asking that question or you're wondering something, I can guarantee you tons of other parents are wondering the exact same thing. And so ask the questions so that we can get the answers out there. I'm hoping to maybe see if we can do some Facebook Lives with some of the other people that are in this movie so that we can address some more specific questions for you all. I will set it up as events once we're able to do that. You can also check out on my podcast. I know there's one specific podcast episode that I did do with one of the people in this particular documentary, Chris McKenna, the one from Protect Young Eyes. We discussed app ratings and how they're not really useful and how we can kind of pick them apart to know why they're not very helpful and when we should trust them and when we should not trust them, that kind of thing. But I'll be having more of these people hopefully on my podcast episode as well. So let us know after watching this movie what types of things you want us to dive deeper into, and we can look into doing that for you. So for now, pop any questions down below. I will keep an eye on it and answer those questions. Make sure you like this video and share it, because all parents need, I almost said patients, all parents need to see this. Also consider joining our community safety group. It's called Safety Conscious Parenting. We discuss everything safety related, from baby and infant safety all the way through adolescence and online safety and social media and mental health and all of those things and everything in between. And hopefully we'll get some more information out. So thank you for listening. Take a watch. Let me know what you think. I hope you have a wonderful and